So, Professor Greg Dodds, teaching history here at Walla Walla University, how did you find yourself on this path to history?
When I started off in college, I was studying theology. I thought I might want to be a pastor. I later realized that I was more interested in the academic side of religion more than pursuing a pastoral career. I added a business major, and then I went to Newbold my sophomore year and came under the influence of Harry Leonard. And Harry really introduced me to the study of history. Eventually added the major and then graduated from Walla Walla University with business, religion, and history. And started looking at some graduate schools. Found one where I could do a dual degree with an MBA in business and then a PhD in history.
So did that kind of postpone the decision for later? I'll do these degrees and then decide how it all fits together?
Yeah, and through all of this, I never really wanted to be a teacher. So I enjoyed history, but the thought of being up in front of a classroom of students I found rather terrifying. And so teaching was never the calling. It was always history that I really enjoyed.
So what was the tipping point?
Well, I finished the MBA and the master's in history. We all have our bucket list to do, whether it's climb Mount Everest or, bike across the U.S. I thought in my life I just really enjoy having a PhD in history. And so I stayed on with the PhD and finished that, and then got a call that Walla Walla University was looking for a professor of history. And so I thought, well, I'll at least go look. I'll have the conversation. I loved my time at Walla Walla when I was a student, and so I thought, well, I'll go and take a look at that position. But my goal, when I eventually accepted it, was to be here for 2, maybe 3 years.
So how long ago was it that you came to Walla Walla University for 2 or 3 years?
19 years ago.
What about teaching has kept you feeling inspired to?
Well, teaching was really hard the first year especially. I was correct to be terrified of it. It was very difficult and challenging for me, but it gradually grew on me. I just came to enjoy it. I think I've enjoyed it more every single year that I've been here. And so I've stayed, and it's been a real blessing.
As you became interested in history as an undergraduate, what were some of the things that drew you in? The things that kind of intrigued you, made you want to learn more?
Well, I'm a curious person. I like to learn things. History is everything. There's no discipline that isn't a part of history. There's no field of knowledge which isn't a part of history. I try to then share that love of history that I have, the constant learning in my classes. That's what drew me to it, was the always learning, always wanting to know more about what makes us who we are as humans.
Was there any particular subject area that just kind of intrigued you?
Yeah. Well, initially it was religious history. I was really interested in the history of Christianity and did some of my early work on Erasmus. I published a book on Erasmus. That era around the Protestant Reformation I found really fascinating.
Can you think of any point in your teaching career was there ever a clarifying moment about your role as a teacher as you look back on that now, especially as you began to realize this might be something you'd be doing for more than 2 or 3 years?
I think it probably was the first history tour that I led in England. That would have been in 2005. That was just so much fun, being able to teach on location, getting to know students, and I realized how much fun it was to get to know students really well. So that's something I've tried to bring back to campus, not just on a summer tour, but having students over to the house, getting to know them, talk with them, getting to know them on a more personal level, and that's really rewarding.
What about your discipline excites you?
That there's always something new, and things are often in history. Things are often not what we expect them to be. There are so many surprises. We have assumptions. We have so many assumptions built in about the past. And when we start to peel back the layers of that history, to learn about the people and the events that took place, it's often not what we expected. Our assumptions are often wrong. And so I'm just continually amazed and surprised when I study history. And I try to bring that into my classes. So when I'm teaching every day, I try to present some information, some story that will surprise the students. This isn't what they expected. It's different. It's interesting. And that's what inspires me with the study of history, and so that's what I try to bring into the classroom.
As you've been at Walla Walla University, very much immersed in your teaching, eventually chairing the Department of History and Philosophy, have you ever found occasions when your training in business, which you kind of thought might be your major trajectory, has that ever come back and meshed with the other things that you've been doing?
People from different areas of life or different careers tend to think in different ways. And being able to think in a historical way, something in a more humanities type of way, but then also being able to have a way of business thinking and conversation and that type of language is really helpful. It's almost like speaking two different languages. And it's beneficial to be able to have conversations with people from multiple types of different perspectives, and having that background is really useful.
Can you think of an example of a time when a student taught you something important?
What I realized talking with students, especially in the last few years, is I often don't know their backstory. And sometimes we can make assumptions about students, but they always seem to teach me that there's so much more, and so much more behind the students that we often aren't aware of. And it's taught me, I think, more humility and also more empathy with where these students are coming from. That if a student is late on an assignment or struggles with something, that it's often there's something behind that. And if we can get to know that student and work with that student, they can do amazing things.
How does faith play into your discipline?
Well, that's an interesting question. It certainly does for me, and it's, again, teaching here at Walla Walla University, which is a Christian university, but also has very high standards of academics and scholarship and investigation. And how do we blend those things together? I think one of the great advantages of Walla Walla University is that we don't close off avenues of inquiry. We're willing to explore the faith dimension to history or to personal experience. We're also not closing off doors in investigation of history or of science or other areas. We're willing to open those questions up, have conversations about them, whereas at some universities, which tend to be on the more secular side, often avoid questions of faith and religion. And then there are some Bible colleges on the other extreme that will have the conversations about religion, but are careful not to explore certain other questions. And one of the great advantages of Walla Walla University, one of the things that I think makes us unique and so special, is that we're willing to do both. And that's that full approach to the study of truth. And I think that needs to then have faith and investigation combined together. And so that's what we try to do here.
Did you envision that you would be spending as much time as you do teaching an undergraduate course called History of Christianity?
Yeah, so History of Christianity was my major field of study in graduate school. And when I came here and was hired, that wasn't a course that was offered here. Walla Walla University needs to have a course in the history of Christianity that any student can take. And so I developed that course and started teaching it. And it's a challenge to teach a course like that in one quarter, but it's also a lot of fun to go from beginning to the present.
What would constitute the perfect day for you in your mind?
Probably the perfect day of all would be with my family, boating on the water, just out having a good time with family. But as a teacher, I think it is on that UK tour. Being on the UK tour, I think one of my favorite days there is when we go, and you actually introduced me to this location. We go to Tintern Abbey, which is just across the border from England into Wales. We visit the ruins of that abbey, then we hike up to the Devil's Pulpit. Wonderful hike up there, you get a view out over the valley. Then after a lunch, we go to Chepstow Castle and explore an old castle and have a ride with the students, both going there and coming back, where we can talk about it. The students get to experience that history. It's out in nature. As a teacher, that's pretty much a perfect day.
Do you think history has any practical application for life?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think we know much of anything if we don't know history. Our own lives, who we are right now is a culmination of the history that has brought us to this point in time. As an institution, Walla Walla University is the product of its history that has brought it up to this exact point in time of the world, of our nation. How do you understand the world you live in if you don't understand what it has brought to this point in time? You're just guessing. You're flying blind. And I think history is about honesty. It's about being honest with ourselves, our own past. It's about being honest with religious past, with scientific past, with political pasts. All of those things we need to be honest about. I've always said that there's a commandment just for historians. Thou shalt not bear false witness. That's what historians do. We are the witnesses of the past. And we have to be honest. Even if we don't like it, we have to be honest with what happened in the past and what brought us to where we are, even if it's hard.
So, as you think about all the different topics you've explored in the history of Christianity, is there a moment or an example or a case history or something that stands out for you that you've resonated with, maybe in ways you didn't even anticipate?
Well, I think one of the themes which I see in the history of Christianity, or which comes to me as I study it, is the need for humility. People's views change over time. I can study a major figure, whether that's a Martin Luther or an Erasmus, and their views shift over time. And I've often asked the students in my classes, how many of you believe today exactly the same things you believed 10 years ago? And there are, of course, no hands. Everyone has changed, everyone has grown, they have shifted. How many of you think that you will believe exactly the same way 10 years from now? Again, there are no hands. People know that they are on a journey, they're developing. So what do we need to take from that? And it's that we need to be fairly humble in our own views as we are in a process of change, but then also realize that other people are as well. And you can see that through historical lives, in Christian figures of the past, and we can even see it in our own life. And so I think that has a lot of meaning for me. And if I am humble, I should probably be fairly tolerant of other people and where they are on their particular journeys.
And certainly the history of Christianity provides many examples of when that did not occur.
Absolutely. People who were not humble, that used Christianity for their own power or for their own benefit and caused an enormous amount of problems.
Walla Walla University is a Seventh-day Adventist higher education institution and has been since the beginning. What do you see as the role for Walla Walla University and schools like it, Seventh-day Adventist universities, as we move into the future?
Well, I think there's going to be a continued need for institutions that take academic inquiry seriously and take faith seriously. Faith isn't going to go away, belief isn't going to go away, but neither are the questions of science, the questions of any academic discipline. Those are going to be there. They need to be explored. That's what universities do. And in my opinion, since universities were founded back in the 1200s, it's that combination of the universal search for truth, which includes the combination of faith and learning, that really is at the core of what a university should be. And I think we stand at a particular juncture between those two, where we can be a great benefit to the world and represent the best of what universities can offer to students. I believe that Walla Walla University has the best education anywhere, and it's that combination that makes that possible.
If you could say one thing to your students now, what would it be?
Be curious. If the students that want to know things, that want to learn, and that's at the core of what their academic career, they do very, very well. Because it's about the curiosity, it's about the learning. The grades, the assignments, all of that stuff follows from there and follows pretty naturally. If you don't want to learn, it's really hard to go through all of that process of learning. But if curiosity is there, those students do really well. So I always encourage students to be curious, and everything else will follow.